Welcome one, welcome all. It is the 5 Sports Show. Atticus, Pead, Cam Murray alongside me. We're a couple of days away from the Coal Rush game, kickoff against TCU, coming up this Saturday night at 6 p.m. We're so excited to talk about this game with you and what WVU football, where they're at right now and where they're going forward, because Cam Murray, as we've seen over the past couple of days, I think Rich Rodriguez has really opened up some eyes, if you will, towards where the program is at, where things are this year, and where we stand moving forward. Where should we start?
I think fans and members of the media should also appreciate the honesty and the sort of tone that Rich Rodriguez has spoken in the last few days, just talking to the media. I mean, he's admitted it more than anyone. The team stunk on Saturday. The team has stunk previously. And, he mentioned a lot of things in there about maybe some misevaluations, coaching needs to be better, things like that. And that's what I think we're looking at right now. The Coal Rush game, I wish there was a little bit more excitement. From what we're seeing, I think last year with the Coal Rush game being introduced, a lot of excitement came with that. Even the team wasn't performing well. This year, it almost feels like people are really trying to get themselves excited for this game because, quite frankly, TCU is coming in as a big, heavy favorite, and we saw how West Virginia has dealt with teams who are heavy favorites this season. So I think what's happening right now in the right step, in the right direction for Rich Rod to take, hold himself accountable, hold the players, hold the coaches accountable, and that's all you can really do when your team's 2-5 and in this tough spot.
And I think, so if you hadn't heard his comments this week, Rich Rodriguez came out and said in Tuesday in his media availability, he took ownership of his misevaluations in recruiting the WVU's roster. That was a bit jarring to hear, and of course, coaches will say that to you. I mean, most coaches will go up there and obviously tell the truth in their press conferences. I don't think that many coaches will beat around the bush out there. Rich Rodriguez, though, more honest than I think many. He didn't call any players out specifically, but he did say he misevaluated a bit when he was recruiting in the offseason, and he had to come to terms with the fact that the hard edge he was talking about isn't going to do everything, and certainly not going to do it at the speed that he was talking about, because really what's most jarring about this admission is that over the offseason, we heard all about Pat McAfee's show. When he was talking to us here, he was ready to win right away. West Virginia could win right away. We had a lot of skepticism about that here just because this roster wasn't talented enough. It just seemed like that coming into the season, not enough time to gel. And that's been proven right here now that, look, this team is just nowhere near ready to compete. And moving forward from here, interesting to hear from Rodriguez directly saying it's not ready to go right now. He thinks they're building and they can still win big here, but it's certainly not happening at the speed that he said it would, nor I think many expected right now. And here we are at 2-5. You've not been in a single Big 12 game, and I don't know if it's going to get any better this week against TCU.
No, I don't think so either. But I think, college football coaches in America, or just coaches in general for professional sports, are kind of playing the role of also politician in some case. Like for college football, because you're trying to convince an 18-year-old, 17-year-old, or 20-year-old to transfer to your school or, come to your school for that matter. So you have to kind of do things like that and hard edge and things, and Pat McAfee going on the show. But I actually really do appreciate Rich Rodriguez is coming out and just saying it, that maybe he went a little bit too overboard on the hard edge, making that such a big deal. Maybe he, the misevaluations you kind of touched on, maybe he made it, thought that what worked at Jacksonville State could work here. But I think it's good if we heard from Rich Rodriguez and he was kind of grumpy or rigid with the media saying, oh, well, I'm not going to change it now, or, I think we did the best we could. I think people could have their rights to be very upset, but the way Rich Rodriguez handled himself in the press conference, I don't think there's any reason for anyone to say that Rich Rod doesn't believe in, what he does. Maybe not believes in what he did in August, but right now recognizing that it ain't working, and he, more than anyone, I'm sure, wants to get it fixed as fast as possible, and that's what we're hearing.
And that's an interesting thing to say, too, because I think all of us know Rich Rodriguez is West Virginia football to a really big degree, not just now, but has been in the past. So to hear him be honest like this about where things stand, where he thinks they stand going forward, of course, he's just that kind of guy. But also to hear him talk like this is really refreshing. I don't mean to just harp on Neil Brown. This is Dana Holgerson, too. Did you often think that he was telling you the truth in every press conference? Not really, right? It was more of a, you beat around the bush a little. Yeah, we were good. We missed a few opportunities, whatever. It just didn't feel like the homegrown guy, if you will. And this does. And I think it's a really honest assessment of where WVU is at. Because it wasn't just the missed evaluations, it wasn't just the hard edge thing, it was on his Monday night radio show too, where in that he said the program didn't have their finances really ready to go in the offseason, and they missed out on some players they would have liked to keep, and money was an issue. And he says that it's going to be fixed going forward.
Right.
We've talked a lot about that in our previous shows about, is it really? What does West Virginia have as a foundation? Do we really think they can compete in the top of the Big 12? I don't know. We don't see those numbers. He says, he thinks going forward they will be, but I think, Cam, that really is the story of this season so far. It is Rich Rodriguez came in with an idea and an expectation of winning. West Virginia isn't just not close to that. They're nowhere close to that. Because right now, I don't know what you bring back from this team next year. It's just nowhere near good enough.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I do feel like with the quarterbacks, and we talk all the time about the most important position on the field, so of course we're going to talk about the quarterbacks, but I do think there is some truth to what Rich Rod is saying about his confidence in Scotty Fox. I do believe if Rich Rod had a choice right now, he would love to bring Scotty Fox back.
Yeah.
He would love to roll with him, and honestly, young player could learn a lot, can continue to progress. Not many guys, I would say, on maybe the offensive line is a situation of itself.
Yeah.
The unit, I think, needs the most attention of all the units, of course. Maybe that is also on the coach. If the offensive line we're 7 weeks in, well, what about the offensive line coach? What are we doing in that scenario? Not calling for anyone's job, just pointing out the thing about getting players better and having them understand systems. Well, players can only do as much as the coach tells them to do, or they're learning. So that's another thing we could be looking at the next few weeks, or possibly next season if they need a new coach to help the guys progress. Yeah,
and I wonder, you have to wonder here too. It's not necessarily just down to, is a coach good enough or not good enough to coach at this level? None of us here are calling for anyone's jobs. Cam Marie and I are nowhere near qualified to evaluate that. That's why we're here and Ren Baker's over there. We're not doing that. But I think it is important to just think about and remember here too. Rich Rodriguez's coaching staff, you're coming together for a first time. You're coming together for the first time at a really unique program. West Virginia is unique to a lot of places in the country. The geographic distance from the rest of the Big 12, how important it is in the state, and then it really is the only show in West Virginia. Yeah. It's just a whole nother world out here compared to a lot of other places, and that takes some time to gel. So I would hope for in year 2 and beyond, things do gel a little bit better. There's a more concrete system. This hard edge thing works a little bit better. Right. And to be fair, I'd probably trust hard edge more than trust the climb. So, I
feel you on that, yeah.
Who knows, semantics maybe, right? But we can go with that. But I think at the end of the day, it is important to remember, I don't know how many fans were out there expecting WVU to be great year 1. I think a lot of people expected wins year 1 more than this. I think a lot of fans that I talked to, at least, my neighbors, the friends I have, whatever, they were all mentioning, look, we were hoping for 6-7 wins. And the reality is not doing that well this year. It hurts. You want it to be better. But it is year 1, and it is Rich Rodriguez. If this is anyone else, you're probably getting upset. If this were Jimbo Fisher year 1, you'd be pretty mad. Rich Rodriguez year 1, he's got a lot longer of a runway here because he understands the school, because he understands you, the fan, and I think he's far more honest than most would be. That's worth a lot. So going forward, I think I would feel better about a year 2 with him than most other people. Although, again, we're only 2-5 right now. This could go downhill to 2-10 real quick.
Right, and that's kind of where things are being projected at least right now, in terms of kind of their standing. But no, I think no one understands the program as much as Rich Rodriguez does, the university, all that, and the state for that matter. Kind of like we said, if other coach had come in here and was 2-5 right now, there'd be a lot of probably conversations about, is he this the right coach? But I think a lot of people are confident that this is just year 1. I think it's great that a lot of fans have that mindset of it's year 1 with a new head coach, although he was here in the past, had a lot of success, but they're kind of, at this point in the season, I feel like a lot of fans are putting that 07, 06, 05 runs in the past because it's a whole different era. You can't expect, the fans that might have come into this season expecting, a bowl win or things of that nature, at this point you have to be honest with yourself, and this team is just, for the fans, it's a season of basically just a deep breath and a refresh. I think that's where we're at right now. I don't think this is any point people can think they're going to win out. I just take a deep breath, get your finances, get your recruits in order, come back next season and look to compete for the Big 12.
Yeah, and one thing I think we can all really appreciate about what Rich Rodriguez and his staff have done, you heard Zach Alley say the same thing. He thinks he misevaluated on some players too. They're talking about where they need to improve as coaches and as players, but they've talked a lot about where their coaching needs to get better, specifically after UCF, not a lot of people playing hard. The point I'm getting to here is there was never a letter sent out saying, trust the process, we're like the 76ers, it's year 1.
Right.
That never happened. That, I think, is really important going forward because it is one thing to sell a tank job in the NBA where you have professional athletes and a draft and things like that. In college football, you can't sell that sort of thing. That doesn't really exist, right? Mm-hmm. You need to get good. You need to get good fast. It doesn't just happen overnight. But I do think West Virginia, because of how unique it is, this is no Ohio State. It's not in Texas. You're in a different area. Mm-hmm. You have to get to grips with, Rich Rodriguez, when he was here, it was the Big East. It was a different world. He had his quarterback quickly, and his system hasn't had a lot of experience working with a quarterback who's not Pat White. That's not a slight. That's just you got to find the right guy for what he wants to do, and that's fine. So I think going forward, it is really important to me that you have not heard any trust the process, trust the climb, where the 76ers were bad for a year and then it's Joel Embiid time. You've not heard any of that. You have heard we need to be better as coaches, we need to get better players, we need to do better with finances, we are better than this, we need to prove we're better than this. That's worth a lot at a school that I think if you didn't have that sort of thing, if you were asking people to trust the process, would feel a lot harder. So I can appreciate that and where things are.
No, I appreciate it too. I just think, he's getting real with the media, the team, and what he's telling the media after the game, where he basically said after UCF the team couldn't tackle. The team missed tackles, didn't give effort, was not competitive at all. Well, that's whatever he's saying to the media, and I'm sure all coaches feel the same way. The media is getting 5 to 1% of what's actually being, talked about in the locker room. Well, if that's 1% or 5% of what Rich Rodriguez is saying to the media, I'm sure fans can already expect what's being said to the team internally and how they're handling things like that. So it's like you said, it's not going to be, we get them next week or this and that. It's not going to be that tone of voice, which I think fans can appreciate. And, hopefully looking to next year with their recruiting, that's one thing too. I checked before the show that where they are recruiting ranking. They're top 50, 43rd in the country right now with recruits. 26 three-star commits as of right now, and that is according to 247 Sports. But they're right now, even though they're 43rd ranked nationally in recruiting, they're ranked 9th in the Big 12. So that just goes to show how much better these Big 12 teams have gotten over the last few years quickly, like much quicker. BYU, Arizona State, Texas Tech. So it is tough. The conference that West Virginia is playing in, a lot of these teams are taking advantage of their donors, where they're located, for example, a lot of like Arizona, Utah, all those things. And I worry that whatever West Virginia thinks they might have in their back pocket, monetary-wise or however they're going to sell, there's other schools that are getting better faster. And how quickly can West Virginia turn that corner and get on that same page? Because let's face it, a 17-year-old kid in high school who is good enough or lives, let's just call, give an example. East Coast kid, born in Maryland, right? He's getting offers from Maryland, he's getting offers from West Virginia, maybe even Penn State, maybe even, he gets a call from Rutgers or something like that. Out of those schools, if the money's all the same and a kid is looking at what situation he can flourish in, the first thing you're going to look at is that position group. What is if you're a quarterback, looking at the offensive line, maybe also looking at the coach's track record with quarterbacks. And I just don't think right now West Virginia's in a good position to secure a top prospect like that. And there's no kid in the country that's going to look at West Virginia as, if they're a 4-star or they can play somewhere in the Big Ten, there's no chance. I think they're taking West Virginia and trying to, the hard edge and this and that, play for your I don't think that's really the case anymore. And I think maybe it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago. I just think the reality situation is who can pay the most money, what's my best chance of getting to the NFL, and number 3 doesn't even really matter anymore. Or maybe number 1 is the money, and then number 2 is future. Maybe number 3 is, how well are we going to win? And you can't really sell that right now, which is why it's tough to look at next year and say, we can bring these players in. Yeah, but you're going to have to pay more than if you were, let's say right now you had 4 wins or 5 wins. You're paying a higher price for players that, are choosing between better schools. And I just think it's tough when it's now this new era. I'm just a little bit worried about what West Virginia's expectations are in terms of the portal and in terms of recruiting. That's
a really good point. I want to go to 2 things that, branching off of what Cam just said. I think what Cam said is really the meat and potatoes of where West Virginia is. Excuse me, and where we're talking about the program is going forward. So first, BYU, second, high school. Right. BYU is a good comparison, I think. West Virginia beats BYU by 30 points 2 years ago, 37-7 in Morgantown, having a okay year. BYU struggles that year. They go 5-7. They're first in the Big 12. West Virginia does all right. But going forward from that point, BYU has, I think they've lost, at the end of that year, they lost 3 or 4 games. They've lost 2 since then. They're something like 18-2 in their last 20 games. Wow. And all of a sudden, their recruiting class, and also a unique situation with a religious background in Provo, Utah, which is, it's not exactly isolated, but it's a bit further out than, some places are. Yeah. It's a different spot, and they have gone quickly from, bottom half at least, near the bottom of the Big 12, to immediately up near the top. And you look at a place like West Virginia that beat them and seemed to have more on the table than them at the time, and it's just gone steadily down since then. And I think the slope is really slippery in this Big 12, like Cam has mentioned. We look at the Big 12, and you might look at it as a 1 or maybe a 2-team bid for a playoff spot or something like that, and you think, well, it's not Power 4. You can quickly turn things around. You can quickly get to the top. As Cam was mentioning, I don't know how much of that is really the case at this point, because now BYU, a team similar to West Virginia, comes quickly into the Big 12 and quickly succeeds. They're overcoming West Virginia right now. They are far up the chain. And you can see the money difference from there, from Texas Tech, from TCU, from Utah, from all these other schools. Yeah. Even an Oklahoma State team that, it was a disaster this year. It looks like they've got big boy money there like usual. So there is quickly coming a time where the Big 12 has a lot of money in this conference. And there are going to be players out there in that transfer portal who are coming out of those top 2, the Big 10 or SEC, or coming up, and they're going to go to those Big 12 schools who have the most money and who are having the most success right now. West Virginia can't sell any of that. That is tough. And financially, again, it's great that they're at the top in terms of revenue share with that $20.5 million that each school gets. West Virginia said they're going to be in that group. But NIL money is unlimited. NIL money, there's no cap, and there's no reporting of it, so we have no idea how close West Virginia is. But look, if you're going to get the best sponsor deals, are you going to Cincinnati, Ohio? Are you going to Salt Lake City? You going to Tempe, Arizona? Or are you going to Morgantown? You can answer that question, right? Yeah. So that's my number one concern. You're quickly getting lapped, and you've got to catch up quick. And then number 2, high school. We've heard this a few times this year from Rich Rodriguez. This is a quote from his press conference Tuesday. We've got to make sure we evaluate, retain the right ones, and have a great high school recruiting class, which I think we're doing that now, end quote. I've heard high school quite a few times. It's not Dabo Sweeney level, but also high school can only do so much for you. I understand you want to build a program here, and I understand there are a lot of high school kids who do come out into college football and do stay for a long time. That number is quickly dropping, though. Transfer portal is very fluid. It's going very quickly. A lot of people are willing to move, and they're willing to move to a spot that seems good to them. So when we look ahead to the future here and we're like, okay, which West Virginia players are going to stay going beyond this, it's easy to say, well, you keep a guy like Cam Vaughn. Is he really going to stay? Are people like that really going to stay? Who's going to want to come from the transfer portal to West Virginia if you're focusing on the high school players? This isn't North Carolina. This is not something where you're trying to build from the ground up into this NFL-style system, right? We've not heard anything like that. Right. But I have heard high school said a lot, and you just got to wonder, is there enough of a grasp on how important the transfer portal is, or is it that high school players are maybe more amenable to coming to West Virginia, and the transfer portal is just not going to give you the big players that you need? West Virginia, you saw last year, C.J. Donaldson's gone. You lost a few other players in that portal as well who you would have liked to have back. Yeah. Trey Lathan, looking great at Kansas right now. Justin Terry, that offensive tackle who's now at Ohio State, would have liked to have him back. There are quite a few guys who transferred out last year who you'd like to have back right now. Even Ryder Burton, the quarterback, comes in for UAB, looks amazing in one game, and West Virginia can't throw for more than 100 yards in 4 straight games. It's rough. It's slim pickings right now. So you just got to hope it's not all high school, and you can take advantage of the transfer portal, which he's not had to do at Jacksonville State. And in Arizona, it wasn't a thing because it's been too long now. Right. So we've not seen Rich Rodriguez do it in the transfer portal yet. But obviously this year, it's not happening. So I do wonder, is it going to work? I don't know, with the transfer portal.
I'm not sure. And the new era of this whole thing is, let's say you bring these kids in from high school, and they play really well when they get the chance. You develop them, you develop these guys, your guys you recruited. Well, with this whole new era, all it takes is the season ends and another team comes out of the woodwork, hands them or offers them. We saw from Hudson Clement, for example, a West Virginia guy gets offered $400,000? I don't know the exact number, but it was a lot of money from Illinois. Goes to Illinois. Who's to say that these high school kids you're bringing in are going to be true to I think this time it's all case by case, and every kid's different.
Yeah.
I understand all athletes are different, but it's really hard to turn down money. I would assume if you are a high school kid or you're a freshman in college getting offered 6 figures, and West Virginia is trying to offer you similar but not as much. I don't know how you rationalize that in terms of your own career and where you are financially in your own life. It's just tough. I would say lean more to transfers. If that was my choice, I believe that transfers is the best path to success for West Virginia. Getting a high school kid and bringing them in and having them develop, it's not really going to work. I don't think it's working right now. And to get a kid maybe who's not playing at a Big Ten school or a SEC school, a kid that you think is good or you see on film and he's not getting the playing time, those are the kids you go after. The kids who are in Power 2, who you know they can come in and change the game or help West Virginia. I think we can go back and look at, the whole Jamori Robinson situation. It was a tough situation for him to deal with, the team to deal with. We thought him coming in was going to be, he had 10.5 sacks, 11 sacks, led the AAC Defensive Player of the Year for UTSA. It's more of those guys to bring them in. Now, Jamori Robinson, we haven't seen all what he can do, his potential, because, he was held off the field for the whole NCAA thing. But that's the guys you go after, the guys that are playing really well in maybe the AAC or Conference USA, wherever. That's where I think Rich Rod will have the most success. I think it's hard for him to go to an SEC or Big Ten and try to pick kids from that when they see the amount of money their teammates are getting. They know what's out there. I just don't think West Virginia can offer that. But I would, if they come out and they get a really good kid in the transfer portal, I'd be surprised, but I'd be happily surprised because it shows West Virginia is trying to do something in that direction.
To wrap this up before we turn our attention to TCU, I think that's the best way to put it here. Rich Rodriguez says it's evaluation. The coaching staff says it's a misevaluation from the summer. Is it really misevaluation, or does it come down to money? Or is it some blend of the two, and hopefully you improve one, the other improves, and there you go. At the end of the day, it's West Virginia. We can ask the question of, is it one or the other, or is it both? It's hard to say. It's hard to know.
Yeah.
We're going to have to find out as we go forward, but at least from this year, what we've seen, just not enough difference makers who are left to be able to put something together for West Virginia. And going forward from here, you hope a guy like Jaheim White stays. I don't know if he will.
Yeah.
So Cam Vaughn, maybe. Who knows? Rodney Gallagher, who knows? Mark Heel, looks like he might be going. No confirmation of that officially yet, but who knows, right? The transfers you bring in, it's just not done enough. So you got to hope in year 2 it's better than that. And I think my hope is it's just misevaluation because money is something that can be fixed, and it won't ever be fixed over time. West Virginia is never going to compete with the very top schools. There just aren't enough graduates to do that, and that's okay. Right. I think there's a strong understanding of West Virginia culture here, and that does a lot for your football team if the kids buy into it and the coach can sell it to them. But at the end of the day, money is a big deal, and if the money's not all right, the evaluation has to be top-notch. And as Rich Rodriguez himself has said, evaluation wasn't good enough this offseason, so here we stand.
Right.
And here we stand at 2-5 going into a TCU team that is the opposite of that. 5-2 are the Horned Frogs, and they're coming in as big favorites. What's it at now, Cam? 14.5? 15, depending on where you look?
15.5. Yeah, I think it's around that, 14, 15. Yeah.
Look, if you're taking West Virginia in the under here, good for you. I hope you're right on the spread. It certainly has not felt like it lately, with West Virginia losing their Big 12 games by an average of nearly 28 points per game right now.
Yep. It's
not been pleasant. So in the Coal Rush game this Saturday night that's been relegated to ESPN+, you got to hope for something here.
Yeah, and I heard kind of Rich Rod talking about this Coal Rush game in the press conference this weekend, just talking about he recognizes the importance of this game for the state, and it sort of feels not the same air or the tone as a backyard brawl, but I mean this is another example of like the fans are going to be there for the reason to support the state, the coal miners, all that. So a lot of that, Rich Rodriguez this week in practice or wherever, that's something he can convince his players to make them play harder, and hopefully that helps. Right. Because the backyard brawl, we saw the team we saw on September 13th. We're never going to see that team ever again.
No.
And it's hard to say that, but we need something similar to that. And I just hope that this game is a more competitive game. Last year's Coal Rush game did not go well at all.
Iowa State, yeah.
And it wasn't great. And I think, the energy we're feeling right now is a lot more holding everyone accountable than what we heard the week of that Coal Rush game last year, where it kind of was more of a deflection point about, well, we got this big game and kind of beating around the bush. Rich Rodriguez understands the importance of this game. We have to come out strong and be competitive.
Right.
And yeah, if I'm a fan, I want to go to you want to go to this game. This is one of the best games to go to. I heard it's going to be the uniforms. You could argue it's one of the best uniforms they got in the Big 12.
You're going to have those wristbands, light up wristbands.
Yeah,
That'll be fun.
a lot of, so I hate to say it, but it's going to be a fun night. And I hopefully this West Virginia team can show some competitiveness. UCF, and Rich Rod said it all, the team did not look competitive at most points in that game. If you can come out, get the ball first, go down the field and score, that would be huge. I mean, if West Virginia can get the ball first or can get a stop and not allow TCU to score the ball on their first drive, and then West Virginia can get the ball and score either a field goal, touchdown, whatever, that would be huge for this team, organization, not even having to win. Give the fans something. Give them something to look at and go home, or, even if it turns out to be 14-15, another big loss, give the fans something. This is the game that maybe people don't think they're going to win, but for sure, this has a lot more to do with the entire state and how you're going to be perceived heading into the next few weeks.
I would probably adapt that and say, can you do that? Can you score first and keep some fans in the seats until halftime?
Yeah.
That's I think the goal here. I mean, the Pitt game, 62,000 some odd people, that was incredible. An incredible experience in person and on TV. And I mean, let's be honest, the fans had a huge impact. I don't know if you win the game with 10,000 fewer fans there, with the amount of noise generated,
100%.
how in Eli Holstein's head they were at the end. I mean, it comes down to the players on the field, don't get me wrong. But the fans made a big role there. And then you go up to the Utah game, and I think the listed attendance was about 53,000. And I mean, what would you say at halftime, Cam?
It was
30?
Yeah, it was plenty more red. I hate to say it, but it was plenty more red than it was. I mean, they were wearing the powder blues that game, or the fans were, I guess. So yeah, it was plenty more red. But
it was just tough. And they've not been at home since the Utah game now. It's been nearly a month's time since we've had a game up in Morgantown. So if you're a West Virginia fan, this isn't early fall. You're not going in shorts and a T-shirt now. You got to have a jacket on. Might be some rain. It's going to be a cold game. It's 6 p.m. at night. Look, if TCU's up 3-4 scores at half and it's 8:30 p.m. and you're freezing, I mean, I'm heading home.
Yeah, I wouldn't stay either.
And that's just going to be a poor product for your fan base and for your team. So like Cam is mentioning there, I'm hoping that West Virginia can put up enough fight to keep some fans there for a while. That'd be a nice step against a TCU team that, frankly, might put up a lot of points. I mean, they're averaging 309 yards a game passing right now. West Virginia is giving up about 250. They haven't really played a team that passes a ton yet. So this could be, we could be in for a long night if TCU decides to go long every play. And, we'll see, right? Pitt wanted to throw all the time, too. Maybe this plays into West Virginia's hands. They can get back into the sacks and get their sacks back on track. But I don't think any of us really have any optimism. I mean, you and I, Cam, certainly don't feel like TCU is going to lose this game.
No, I don't. I hate to say it, but being honest, I don't think TCU coming in and losing this game would be. It's hard. It's really hard to say. Because if West Virginia won this game, if they ended up winning this game by 7 points or a field goal, and it was a high scoring affair, 28, 24, 20, something like that, you could look at this team and be like, wow, but I do not see that happening. I don't see this team scoring more than 24 points. I mean, they just can't. And whether it's, the offense, the offensive line, it's also your defense. I mean, I could see TCU giving West Virginia, 35, 38 plus points. And if West Virginia only has 10 or 17, I could see it being 38-17. I could see that score, and I could also see maybe 38-21, 17, but I just don't see West Virginia scoring a lot of points. And they haven't proved anything otherwise.
No, they haven't. And West Virginia is averaging 21 points a game. And you got to remember, that 21 points, a lot of that skewed by the Robert Morris 45 points.
Yeah.
You take that out, it's a lot worse. So TCU, they're scoring 36, nearly 36 and a half per game. West Virginia's got a lot of work to do to bridge that gap. That's a 15-point gap in just average alone, hence probably that line of 14, 15, depending on where you look. And so here we are now. And again, we're going into yet another game where we don't even know who's going to start at quarterback. We think it's going to be Scotty Fox, Khalil Wilkins. Rich Rodriguez says he's going to be questionable. Max Brown maybe will come in and potentially throw this time. He's run a couple of times this year, hasn't really played yet. True snaps. So it'll probably be Scotty Fox. I mean, you've seen the quarterback play so far this season. It's all up in the air. And Fox, of course, freshman, doing the best he can. He's had some electric plays, that deep pass against BYU, the Pitt game, that great run against Robert Morris. But at this point, you're a freshman quarterback learning on the job, and you look at the other freshman quarterback in the conference, and Bear Bachmeier, it's a whole other stratosphere, a freshman quarterback. So Fox has some learning to do, and the way Rich Rodriguez mentioned it on Tuesday was not only is Fox learning on the job here, but the team's got to provide him with support that he needs to win.
Yes.
And I don't think any of us think that's really going to happen at this point. I mean, the running game is just destitute at the running back position. It's been really tough. The stat that stands out to me the most was from last game. There was a defensive player for West Virginia who was third in yards gained at 31 from an interception. There were only two players, Khalil Wilkins and I think it was Sincere Bowers, who had more yards than that, and that was it. It was just brutal on offense. So you're hoping for anything offensively this week. We'll see what can happen. Yeah. Scotty Fox getting all the starters reps for a week. Hopefully that helps.
And I think if the belief we've heard from Rich Rod and Scotty Fox, if we can look at this in maybe 2 or 3 years on this season and look back and say, wow, we're grateful that Scotty Fox had all these snaps in these situations, because when he becomes a sophomore or junior, this is the guy that I think is someone, like I said, you should bring Scotty Fox back. You should bring him back as the starter for next season. Now, of course, things can change, but if this is what he's having to deal with his first year as a freshman, I don't see any reason why you can't build off this and move him to next season. One thing, though, about the defense, this is a stat I came across this morning, is they haven't had a sack since the Pitt game.
Oh, my gosh, it's been that long? They have 12 sacks on the season.
Yeah, and they had no...
It's been, what is that, 4 games, 5?
Yeah, 4
games.
Conference game. So no sacks until the Pitt game. Or,
wow.
Other than the Pitt game. So a long time.
Okay, that blew my mind.
Long time.
I've known about the 12 sacks. I didn't know it's been that long.
Yeah, because they had a bunch of sacks. I want to say they had quite a few against Robert Morris or something.
I think it was like 7.
And then they had a few at Ohio, or maybe 1 at Ohio, and then they had 4 against Pitt, 3 or 4 against Pitt. So yeah, that would do it. Haven't had one since Pitt. And
not great.
I don't know what. And look, I'm not a defensive coordinator. I don't get paid to be a defensive coordinator, but just wondering, what is going on with that? Are the offensive lines so much better than West Virginia, or is the defensive line just not giving enough effort, not doing things? To me, that's mind-boggling that and they don't have quarterback pressure stats for college, or at least I haven't seen.
Nope.
But I wonder what's going on. Are they getting to the quarterback at least? And if you're watching the games, quite frankly, they're not. I can't remember the last time a quarterback has played West Virginia and has been on his back or at all since Eli Holstein. But I can't remember any time like that. Even Parker Navarro, I mean, there was only a handful of times where he was in the pocket under duress. And that's a guy in the MAC that people clowning that school they were playing, and then they lost. So
that looked like Lamar Jackson.
He looked great. So
and I do think it's important to keep in mind with the sack stat. It's not like West Virginia is playing pure passing teams.
No.
Utah is a lot of running. BYU is a lot of running. UCF is as well. But at the end of the day, did any of those quarterbacks hit the turf ever? I mean, it was not like that. No, I mean, those running quarterbacks have caused nightmares for West Virginia this year. So maybe we can attribute the lower number of sacks to that.
Right.
0 in 4 games is wild. I'm still blown away by that.
Crazy, yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, when you watch those games and you use the good old eye test, the quarterback's never getting touched. And UCF's quarterbacks, I mean, those guys, that was a knife through Swiss cheese, hot butter, whatever euphemism you want. That WVU defense crumbled really easily in Orlando last week. So you're hoping for better here. TCU, this could be tough. Maybe it's a good thing. They're going to be passing a lot. We're going to have to see. Again, not a lot of optimism so far. And at the end of the day, I think we're all looking forward to year 2. And so right now it's just about, can you keep it close and give the fans a game? Give them a reason to stay on ESPN Plus or stay in Morgantown beyond the first 90 minutes.
And maybe the passing attack will be good for West Virginia, because even though they don't have any sacks except for the Pitt game, the interceptions is a good stat for West Virginia. And of course, a lot of teams are trying to take advantage of the secondary, but they played well when the ball's in the air. So maybe that's something that West Virginia can. A lot of their games they've had gotten at least 1 or maybe 2 interceptions here and there, but maybe that's something they can take advantage of with their guys in secondary. But it's going to be a tough game. I don't know. I think we're going to use this and. It's like at the end of the day, we're looking at a game this season where West Virginia can get a win. I think we said a UCF might have been that. Maybe TCU. Now I don't think so. Colorado maybe is that last chance. And it's just a tough spot to be in when you're looking at fans of any team, if you're looking at your schedule and you're saying, well, we're going to lose this, we might win that, I think it's tough right now. And well, fans should be excited for next season, though. If you have a coach like this that is taking accountability and literally staring right in front of the camera and saying, we stunk, what else can you ask for your head coach? If I was a fan, I would look at that and say, you know what, we might not be in the best spot right now, but at least we have a coach that's admitting the things that are going wrong, and I don't think he's afraid to make any changes. Let's just say that in the offseason if he needs to.
Yeah. And again, Rodriguez is working off a bank of a lot of good memories and a lot of good performances. So that gives you a lot more leeway than a normal other person would have. There's something to be said for that. And that's not a negative. I don't think that is one. If you're ever going to gamble on it working with somebody, gambling on it with Rich Rodriguez is the way to go. And they're going to give him every bit of runway they can. And in college sports, when coaches get fired, especially lately, you see it's not really down to the best time for a buyout. Rather, you just saw James Franklin get canned.
Yeah, exactly.
If they wait to the end of the season, the buyout's lower. And he did really well last year. But really, it's down to fan pressure. And I think West Virginia fans, you're going to give a lot less fan pressure towards Ren Baker about Rich Rodriguez than you would most anyone else. That's not a bad thing. That is okay. Again, you've seen it work once. It is worth finding out if it can work again. And I think everyone would be comfortable going with that, hence why he's here and why I don't think there's really any pressure on him from the fan base to get him fired or anything like that.
Yeah, no.
There's no concern like that. It really does just come down to where's West Virginia at? Can you turn it around? It's a real moment of introspection here. So we're going to see what can happen. You're going to the game, Cam.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see from the sidelines. It's going to be a cold game. You going to get a hot chocolate or something?
I don't know if I can do that. Maybe I don't know. When we get there, they're usually open. Maybe I can spring some hot chocolate down there. They've got waters in the media room, but I don't know. I want to just say one more thing before the show ends. Maybe the radio listeners or whoever. Just want to point this out because as a Temple grad,
here we go, Temple again.
So we also have a new head coach. We fired our head coach last season. Was terrible. One of the worst head coaches in FBS history. I'm fine with saying that. He was not good. He won a natty with Ohio State as a running backs coach. Okay, whatever. And they brought him in because of that. Anyway, last season in FPI, Temple was rated 126 nationally, right? And conversely, with West Virginia's 6-7 season, they were 63. So let me just say that one more time. Temple 126 to end the season, 126. 63 was West Virginia after the Memphis Bowl game, right? Well, week 9 right here. Now, both schools now have head coaches, and I understand things are different at each school, right, and schedules and that. Right now, Temple, in about, 8 or 10 months, they went from 126 to 85. West Virginia, 63 to 86. And now, I don't want to spread any, I don't want to make anyone else feel bad, but Marshall, the fans down south that might be watching this or get this recommended, Marshall's like 81, or Marshall's like 82 or 83. They're above both Temple and West Virginia, all schools with new head coaches. So that's what can be done in some cases. And I'm not saying West Virginia, out of all three of them, they have the hardest schedule, of course, playing the toughest conference, of course, but let's face it, there's other schools out there with first-year head coaches, and you can pull it up right now.
Marshall's 80.
Marshall's 80. Marshall. So, and I don't want to put more gas in the fire to end this pod, but just saying, there's schools out there that have a lot less resources than West Virginia that seem to be moving up faster. Now, of course, harder conference, a lot more competition, but I just wanted to point that out, that in year one, there are schools out there with a lot less resources doing quite a lot more than West Virginia. So maybe that's something that can be looked at and said, well, why are we letting Marshall have all the attention? At some point, Marshall, what's their record right now?
They're 4-3, aren't they? They're 4-3.
If Marshall makes a bowl game and West Virginia doesn't, I go on Twitter, I see the conversations. A lot of those Marshall fans are pumping their chests out. So I don't know.
They got a shot.
Is that any pressure from West Virginia to maybe get themselves going? It should be. And I see this all the time. I would love if Marshall and West Virginia played I would love to see that. It'd be great.
I don't know if you'd love to see it right now. I don't think West Virginia.
Maybe West Virginia fans would be afraid, But I'm just saying, first year, a lot of schools, I don't want to keep saying it, but first year head coach, a lot less resources, doing a lot more. And let's see if West Virginia can get on that same page.
And you're going to have to see, comparison is the thief of joy, of course. You know that saying.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, sports expose pretty quickly who you are and who you aren't. you're going to find out real quick with a team like Virginia Tech. If a team like Virginia Tech's bringing in a guy like James Franklin or something, I mean, you got to get better quick because Virginia Tech, traditional longtime rival, nearby, near to us here in Bridgeport, Morgantown area. I mean, they could be stealing some recruits from you. You look at the teams nearby like Maryland. Maryland looks better. They're not great, but they're better than West Virginia.
Yeah.
Penn State, obviously. Penn State's the big boy. And then you go over to the West, and you got Ohio State out there. And you got Cincinnati, more importantly, in your conference. And Cincinnati's looking really good. And that's Cincinnati's team who was hideous last year.
Exactly.
And they look way better right now. And so, again, it's sports, it's college football, it can flip quickly, that's awesome. You know, this is the great part of the sport, a great part of any sport. Anything can change quick if you get the right people in place. But the more you lose, the less evidence there is of that, and it sort of becomes a snowball effect. So you got to turn it around quick. We'll see if that happens. If something like that happens, any bit of joy, any bit of hope you can have against TCU, maybe there's a great win out there for the Mountaineers. And it's not like TCU is the best team in the conference or anything. I mean, they're 2-2 in conference play.
Right.
They're not the best. If you can win against a team at home on a coal rush night, TCU is not a bad opponent to have. They could beat West Virginia by 40, but look, TCU is not amazing. If you can shut down that pass game a little bit, or at least keep it a little below average, you've got a shot here if the offense can show up. We'll see. Should be a fun weekend. Saturday night, 6 p.m. ESPN Plus. We'll bring you the highlights after the game here on WDTV. We're also going to have our latest 5 Sports show that night after the game. Should be plenty of fun. Thanks for joining us here tonight, everyone. Go enjoy the Coal Rush game. We'll see what happens as the Mountaineers play the Horned Frogs. We'll see you next Saturday night.